Attention on deck. At ease, men.
Most inexperienced flight leads think a briefing is just dumping the plan in Discord and hoping everyone reads it. You paste the DCS mislink or the BMS, TE or campaign, you drop a couple of screenshots, maybe some data cards, and call it all good. But that's only part of it. A good briefing in BMS or DCS isn't about reading the route out loud over voice. It's about giving your flight enough understanding so they can still function when the plan starts falling apart. And let's be real, in multiplayer it always does. The BMS tanker acts up again, that SAM site that you thought was dead by now is very much alive, weather rolls in, or your wingman's data link just decides to take a nap. If your flight only memorized the waypoints, they can follow you. If they understand the intent, they can actually help you adapt and keep the mission alive.
Let's kick the tires and light the fires, Big Daddy.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Wildman 31st channel. In the last episode, we talked about delegation. How a good flight lead turns 4 pilots into one effective weapon by spreading tasks and responsibility. But delegation only works when everyone actually knows what matters. And in our world, that starts long before everyone hits fly. Let's start with the part that most people skip. The real work happens before everyone joins the voice channel. As a mission builder or as flight lead, you should already have done the heavy lifting in the editor and on your desktop. That means, first of all, building the mission properly. Have set up the right waypoints, the bullseye, data link networks, the radio presets, tanker tracks, and AWACS orbits. Then, creating proper data cards or kneeboard images with frequencies, call signs, package composition, rules of engagement, and abort criteria. Then, preparing clean briefing slides or a shared image with the timeline, push times, known threads, and key decision points. And thinking through obvious contingencies. What if the seed package is late? What if we lose the lead? What if the target area is hotter than expected? Every bit of prep you do beforehand means less improvisation under pressure once you're airborne. It also means your actual briefing can be short and sharp instead of a 60-minute data dump, leaving time for questions and breakout sessions for the individual flights in the package. The second key subject is standardization. In a decent virtual squadron, a lot of stuff is already covered by the standard operating procedures or SOP. Startup flow, taxi and takeoff procedures, standard check-in format, fuel calls, fence-in calls, lost wingman, and recovery. If those things are written down and trained, you don't need to brief them every single mission. The rule is actually simple. Only brief what is not in the SOP, or what deviates from it in this flight. Everything else is noise. In computer terms, your wingmen already know the operating system. Your job is to give them today's mission-specific update. So, let's talk about what a briefing must accomplish. Because you don't need to cover every single thing. You only need to land 8 things in the heads of your flight members. Number 1. Mission objective. What does success look like? And make sure it's in measurable terms. Number 2. The big picture. Why this mission matters in the overall campaign or in the package. Number 3. The situation overview. Where we are, where the enemy is, and what is changing. Number 4. The tactical situation or intel. What are the threats? What are the friendly assets? What are the rules of engagement? And what assumptions can be made upon that information? Number 5 is what we call the motherhood. It's basic admin. It's what aircraft are you going to fly? What safety needs to be taken into consideration? What is the weather like? What timing do we have? And what aircraft setup, weapons-wise, do we use? Number 6 is what we call TAC admin. It's what comms do we use? What formations? What does the timeline look like? What roles do we all have? What contracts do we have? And what standards do we fly to? Number 7 is tactics. Make sure you always use the see-do approach for that. What pilots should see and what they should do when they see it. It makes it all very clear for them. And then number 8, contingencies. Go over what can break the plan, who makes the decisions, and what happens when these instances occur. And then always close by repeating the objectives again. A final recap of the intent, the priorities, and the no-go logic. And when your flight members understand these 8 points, they can make good decisions without waiting for you to spoon-feed them every change. That's the real purpose of the briefing. There's an often used proverb for teaching. I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. So, when briefing, make sure your brief doesn't only contain words, but always support your briefing with graphics when available. This allows your flight to form a clear mental picture of what you are briefing instead of having to use their brain power to imagine your intent. It is referred to as the see-do concept. However, you can drop 20 screenshots and a 12-page PDF in the channel. That's information. You need to make sure they understand what you are briefing. You can achieve this by adding details the further you go down the list of the 8 briefing points mentioned earlier. Spending half an hour on the situation and the commander's intent will give your flight nothing they can use in the air. Spending 1 minute on roles, responsibilities, and contingencies will give them the recipe for failure during the mission. So the further you go down the list of 8 that we mentioned, the more you drill down. That is where you create the understanding that is required. Understanding is when your wingmen actually have a clear mental picture of what success looks like, where the big risks are, and what you expect from them when things get messy. This is why focusing only on what is not covered in the SOP is so important. It leaves time for your wingman to ask questions and leaves time for you as a flight lead to verify if everything is understood as you intended. A good briefing does more than prepare your flight for the mission. It also prepares your flight for the debrief. One of the most overlooked benefits of a proper briefing is that it creates measurable expectations. And measurable is the key word here. Just as the briefing removes uncertainty from the mission ahead, it also establishes clear standards that can be evaluated afterwards. Did we hit the push time? Did we achieve the mission objective? Did we maintain formation discipline? Did we execute the planned attack geometry? Did we follow the contingency plan when things went wrong? Without clearly defined expectations, a debrief quickly turns into opinions and impressions. With clearly defined expectations, it becomes a professional discussion about performance. Whether you're flying a combat mission or a training sortie, make sure your pilots understand what success looks like before they leave the virtual briefing room. Because if people know what they're being measured against, they shouldn't be surprised when the debrief starts asking questions about their performance. And that is why a good briefing is always the first step of a good debrief. So let's wrap it all up. A good briefing in BMS or DCS doesn't try to cover everything. It removes the surprises that actually matter. Preparation does the training. SOP removes the repetition. The briefing just highlights what's different about this flight. If your wingmen only know the route, they can follow you. If they understand the intent, they can help you, even when the server decides to be difficult. And that's when your flight starts thinking as a team instead of 4 guys just trying not to crash into each other. The next episode, we'll talk about the other half of the cycle, debriefing. Because the briefing gets your flight ready for the mission, the debrief gets your flight ready for the next one. And that's where everyone, you included, gets better. If this helped, please give me a like and subscribe. This is Wildman, and see you in the next one.